Happy belated Father's Day to all the fathers, all the single mothers, and all the grandfathers, everybody that's been out there in a positive force for their kids. Happy Father's Day. So we want to make sure that we get that out there. I don't think that we said anything about it last week, so bringing it up now is our way of wishing you guys the best of luck. And I also want to, and I think that all of us can agree with this, send our dear friend and colleague Trevor and his beautiful bride a happy 19th anniversary today. So congratulations, you kids. Have fun and be safe out there, with your day. But Trevor, my friend, congratulations. I mean, mainly because how did you keep a woman for never mind. That's just mean. So no, he's a really good guy. So hey everybody, my name is Zach Clayton. I'm the president and founder of Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. I want to introduce our wonderful Footprints family, starting with a lady who's going to have a new addition this week. Come hell or high water, you're going to have a new addition this week.
I'm pushing for that. Yes. Thank you, Zach.
Goddess of the Grape, Miss Stephanie Samos. How you doing, Steph?
I'm doing well. I'm really happy to be here. Good morning, guys. So if you're just catching the show for the first time, my name is Stephanie Samos. I work with nonprofit organizations and people year-round to assist with fundraising through One Hope Wine. One Hope is a cause-centered winery out of Napa Valley with over $9.7 million donated to date. So what I do is I specialize in fundraising, gifting, private wine events, and wine delivery. And it's nice to know that when you pour a glass of wine or send a gift, that you're making an impact for a nonprofit that's really important to you. I'm also the co-founder of PNS Properties. We are a family-run business that is working to curb the homelessness crisis in our veteran communities. Whoa, that was a tongue twister right there. We work with HUD-VASH recipients on housing and are working to build veteran communities and housing while providing support and resources. So I do wear a lot of hats. Feel free to connect with me through my Linktree. All my social media contacts are there, and an email as well.
Yet, Steph, you and I also, in which, I've got slow internet, so, it looks like I'm not working hard, but I'm really trying to get this done. You and I also run a monthly show in which we're going to have week 2 this Wednesday with a really good friend of ours. He was on with us last week, but Tyreek. And can you just briefly explain to people exactly what we are looking at on the screen right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So Zach and I teamed up over a year ago now. And what we do is we collaborate and bring smaller nonprofit organizations onto the show, highlight them throughout an entire month, and help them fundraise. It's really great because they're reaching a broader audience that way. And a lot of times people don't realize what these smaller organizations are doing. We have Tyreek, which was our second guest on this show, who is being highlighted this month for 2 of his nonprofit organizations, Chef for Vets and Top Tier Sports Group. So that top QR code is going to take you right to the Chef for Vets One Hope fundraiser for the month, and the bottom one to Top Tier Sports Group for that nonprofit organization fundraiser for this month. And, you can definitely catch the whole recording on our page on Community Pay It Forward One Hope fundraiser on Facebook. There's a group there. If you don't want to search it, you can go to my Linktree and go right to our monthly show right there and catch all the things that Tyreek is doing for these organizations. It's really, really impressive the way he is really pouring back into the community after his experiences and really giving back. So
Yeah, well, and next month, there's an individual sitting on this screen that we're going to be highlighting, Mr. Patrick Myers. So we're going to be talking a lot about what he's got going on. Guys, I got some exciting news here. Look at this. Look at this quote that was brought into us. We've got some people, Miss Kelly Elliott, who she is a follower of the Rev Show, which I work on quite a bit, and she is joining us from the UK. And I want to say thank you and welcome, Kelly, to Footprints Forward, where we're trying to help people who are having a difficult time and talking about suicide. So welcome, Kelly. But UK guys, that's kind of exciting. So Patrick, since we're going to be hearing from you this next month, why don't you go on ahead and bat second for us?
All right. So, my name is Patrick Myers. I am the founder of Recall-ish Global, and this is a outreach program that is all centered around getting um, the gospel out in a global manner. We have two different companies run from out of that. We have Consuming Fire Media, which we run the Pit podcast, Voices in the Fire, and some other programs that are actually being launched and started here in the coming months. And so the Pit podcast is a men's ministry, and what we are talking about in these are just how are we supposed to just walk it out with our families, with our friends, neighbors, and have that impact in the community that so many of us men actually are searching on how to actually walk these things out and do these things. Um, we cover anything as far as from suicide to just divorce, whatever those issues are that we deal with men. It's an amazing podcast coming up. Voices in the Fire is a community based one where people get to come on and talk, kind of similar to something like this, but it's for the community to be able to come on and be able to share all those difficult things that they went through and how God intervened in their life, and how they overcame very, very difficult situations where they were just in a fire in their life and they were able to walk through it. The next one that we're going to be doing too is a youth led one. It's called the Youth Initiative, and that's going to be one where teens will be able to um, come on and talk about the issues that they are dealing with, where they'll be interviewing themselves. They'll be the ones hosting the show, and that's just to give. It's also a ministry that we have just launched a month ago. I launched a month ago, where where we're teaching kids how to have impact in the community at the ages that they are right now. It's for ages 16 through 20. And what they don't realize is that they have so much power in their voices and their ability right now to do great things in the community. A lot of times we want to wait for them to be, have accomplished something, but um, all around the world, you see anywhere between 9 to 10 year olds having insane impacts. And so we want to give this opportunity to the kids, get the community behind them to be able to do those things. And last but not least, and I started doing this right here and dealing with suicide. Suicide is very dear and near to my heart. And that is something that we are really forming right now as a community for people that are, instead of just having a hotline, what we want to do is actually have a community where you can find someone locally to actually walk with you through this process of trying to live. And a lot of times you need to have a brother or sister that's right there with you, similar to Alcohol Anonymous. Anonymous, that's the word. Our tongue's getting cut up there, but similar to that. And my friend Dennis is actually the brother that kind of sparked the whole deal here, and he does this with me also. So, and I'd like to just
Well,
right now just publicly thank you, Dennis, for uh, just sparking those ideas, man, and then watching it take off the way it has.
Yeah. You're so welcome, Patrick. I mean, I guess I'll go next, Zach, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
But what I see, Patrick and I became friends in July of last year. He lives very close by. Uh, we we met at our local cigar lounge at a Christian fellowship group that was there, and what you just saw is a glimpse of the character of the man that I have been blessed to get to know over these past almost a year. And it was a few months ago when we were having lunch at a local restaurant, and we were talking about things that were going on, some struggles that were happening, and from my perspective, every time I get a chance to sit down and talk with Patrick, and we were talking about what God's doing in his life and my life and the life of people around us, what I heard from his mouth were gems. It was things that inspired me. And so my thought at that point was, man, I wish I had a cameraman right here with me every time that Patrick and I get together so that we can record this, and that it's not just, yes, I feel blessed and I always have, but I wanted others to be blessed by this too. So I asked the question. I said, hey, Patrick, have you ever thought of recording this, maybe doing a podcast or something? And that's where this started. And little did I know that had actually been on his heart for over a year. So anyway, I'm blessed to be a part of Patrick's ministry that's coming up, and I will support him in it in every way that I possibly can. So now for myself, I'm a retired Army officer. Patrick is a Navy veteran. I've lived pretty much all of my life in and around the military. I was born into a Navy family and served 24 years in the Army, and jobs that I had after the Army were oftentimes serving the military in one way or another. And when my last job kicked me to the curb, so to speak, I had recognized that as a removal of an excuse that I had been using to not do an action. So I'd been having this thought for a long time that are fallen, those who give their lives in service to our nation through the military, deserve to be remembered. Their families deserve it. Their comrades in arms deserve it. And that was the fire, I guess, inside me that was lit probably 10 or 12 years ago. And I was just using all kinds of excuses. Somebody else had to have had the similar idea. Why aren't they doing it? I was busy. I had no background in running a nonprofit or doing anything other than military writing, which will put you to sleep in about 5 minutes. So that's not really what you want to do when you're when you're telling somebody's life story. I've had a lot of experience doing photography, but nothing at all in terms of creating video or documentaries. And so I used that as an excuse that said, okay, God, you're giving me this idea, but I just can't do it because of this, because of that. Well, I was using time as a big one. And when that last job went away about 5 years ago, I said, okay, God, I get the message. Now I have all the time I could possibly want. A lot less money, but all the time. So I started what is called the Price of Freedom Foundation. And this organization is dedicated to telling the complete life stories of those who died while in military service to our nation. And when I say that, a lot of people think about the stories that they know about. So the Pat Tillman story, the Soul Survivor story. There's a handful of folks that get the national attention, and I am glad that they have that national attention because it keeps an awareness in the mind of our society. But there are literally thousands, many thousands, that are forgotten outside of that family and close group of friends. Um, the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences, or USUHS, has been doing an ongoing, what they call longitudinal study, meaning it's a series of studies that go on indefinitely, that are focused on military family grief and how they deal with that and what makes it different. And I've had the benefit of being able to talk or hearing a talk by one of those representatives who early on in this effort, who was talking about commonalities that they found. And one of the top three was the sense that 6 months to 2 years after the loved one has been lost, these families that are called Gold Star families get the sense that their loved one's been forgotten and their sacrifice is no longer honored. And so it validated what I thought was necessary, and that is to tell not just their names, because you've got lots of people who have streets and bridges and other things named after them, and that's good, but it really doesn't tell you about who that person was. You know, what were they like? You know, were they a serious, reserved, shy kind of person? Were they an outgoing, life of the party kind of person? You don't know by simply reading a name on a bridge as you drive over it. And so that's our intent. That is our goal. That is what we're dedicated to doing, is to take a deep dive and to tell the full story. We're working currently with 4 families. We finished our first book. Actually, the manuscript was finished a year ago. We finally figured out what we needed to do to get it published, and it was published back at the end of April. It's called Silent Soul, the Machinist Mate First Class Alfonso Abdel Amos story. And this is a story of a Navy sailor who was born in the Philippines, served 18 and a half years in the Navy, and was lost at sea and under mysterious circumstances, with a possibility that he committed suicide. And he had had a suicide attempt 11 years prior. So the whole idea of taking one's own life is part of this as a possibility. I will be driving up to northern Minnesota here in the first part of next month, because one of the other families, the family of Senior Airman Daniel Johnson, is gathering, and they're going to have a bunch of people together, and I'm going to go up there to interview as many of them as I possibly can. And so we're going to be continuing to do the work to do the research on that story. But that is what we're dedicated to doing. And eventually, when we have the resources to do it, we're going to produce these not just in written form, but audiobook form and video documentary.
And Dennis, one of the things that you guys do is something that other organizations, I don't want to say fall short of doing, but they maybe just stay away from. And it doesn't matter why the hero has left this earth.
Correct.
This includes suicide. It's not that you're glamorizing the suicide, but you're celebrating the person.
We're celebrating their life. We are dedicated to telling their story truthfully and honorably. And so it doesn't matter. And this is all going to be something that is at the approval and essentially the request of the family. We sometimes hear these tragic stories on the news. The news always tells you the bad news, right? They're going to if it bleeds, it leads. So soldiers that do some heinous act and then kill themselves, it's not likely we're going to be asked to tell that story. I won't shy away from it if they do, but we're not going to change the character of things. We're going to tell the story that is truthful. We're going to, because I believe that, number one, God created all of us unique, and that there's no two of us that are exactly alike. So my story is different from Patrick's story, is different from Zach's story, is different from Stephanie's, from Mr. Z's, and that by telling the story of that person who's no longer with us to tell it, it can have a positive impact, even though there are parts of my story that are very negative. Okay, we can talk about things, bad choices that somebody made, that I made, and learn from that, so we can choose to do something different. We haven't been presented with those kind of situations yet, but when I was first considering this, it was like, okay, what are the things that I'm worried about? What kind of stories am I going to be possibly facing that we may have trouble with? Well, one was suicide, and the other was, okay, well, maybe this is somebody from a different culture and language that I may have to work with, get help for myself to understand better what this story is about and be able to tell it that way. And by gosh, don't you know, those two were right up.
Yeah.
That's what I was pitched at first. So and I think that we did a good job. The family seems very happy with this, and from my standpoint, that's the measure of, are we doing this right? Does the family feel that we've treated their loved one with dignity and respect and honesty?
Well, and that's going to be something that's a little bit, a family's going to tell you right away if they're like, oh, no, you're not, you're not going in that direction. So
Right.
this will lead into Mr. Z, but I just wanted to share this with you. One of the things that you can do, you can support the Price of Freedom Foundation by visiting communitypayitforward.us and scanning the little QR code that you see right there. And that QR code is going to take you to a form where all you have to do is insert a receipt, or take a picture of the receipt from any of the people that we work with, any of our partners, whether it be the great Mr. Z building a website like communitypayitforward.us, fully constructed by this man. Wonderful, wonderful job. But he gives us a referral, and we will send 80% of that referral to Dennis and his group, so they can continue to do these books, put these books together, and honor our heroes. And we are very proud to be teamed up, helping Dennis in the littlest way we can, but helping him continue to share these legacies with people. So, Dennis, we welcome you as always, and so glad that you're here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Hey, like I said, I love that you came from being a guest to a co-host, and I think that is you and Patrick both had a very similar path to helping us. So, Mr. Z, my brother from that other mother.
Yes.
What is going on,
mother.
my friend?
And we are all brothers and sisters of Mother Earth, Gaia, whatever you want to call it. And the work I do is nothing compared to what everyone does here with Dennis, Patrick, Steph, and just helping our nonprofits. And of course, you, brother man, for bringing us all together in this wonderful community. Well, that's paying it forward. And I appreciate the kind words. All thanks to your vision. I've always wanted to do a nonprofit that was just like this, but you beat me to it first because you're always in first place when it comes to paying it forward in the community. So I'm not here to compare, but I do like to share. So, with that being said, my name is Z, or you can call me Mr. Z. I am a web developer and I am also a consultant that specializes in helping nonprofits, veteran business owners, and entrepreneurs like yourselves who are looking to announce upcoming events, book online appointments, or perhaps accept donations and sell products and services without the use of eBay or Jeff Bezos. Sorry, Jeff. I also provide a free consultation to those who are looking to get started on their brand new website, but they're not comfortable with the idea of making changes to their website. This includes looking at the code, making a few changes, whether it's WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, and more. And with that being said, if you are looking to modify, develop, or redevelop a custom ADA compliant website, which is short for the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was passed by George H.W. Bush of July of 1990. So, with that being said, if you are looking to modify, develop, or redevelop a custom ADA compliant website, let's develop a website. Z, what are you waiting for? Muscle memory that's kicking in. But back to you, Zach, and thank you, everyone,
Well,
for your
again,
support.
Z, thank you so very much. One of the things that, hello, Sam, how are you doing? Thank you very much for joining us today. One of the things that I have not had even a chance to share with my cohorts here, we have finally an email address. It is footprints@communitypayitforward.us. One of the reasons why this is so important is now one of our sister Sierra is going to get started on all of our Facebook page and everything. She's working diligently on that right now, so we are thrilled that we finally got it. If you have anything that you would like to share with us, please go to footprints@communitypayitforward.us. Again, footprints@communitypayitforward.us. If you have a story that you'd like to tell or anything like that, we're just going to ask you, join us. Tell us your story and we'll get you on the show, because that's what this is all about, is telling stories of people who are going through hard times mentally, physically. And look, suicide is a terrible, terrible thing. Suicide is final. And we are a group of people who came together with the vision of trying to put out there everything, because none of us heal. Dennis said it earlier, and it's we all heal differently, and that's just the way it is. So we want to bring to light all these wonderful people doing wonderful things, like Patrick was talking about earlier. Patrick, you got some fantastic things going. And Patrick, I wanted to bring up something that you were talking about earlier. You said something that really touches my heart with the Cub Club, because one of the things that we believe is that telling kids that, look, helping people does not mean pull out your wallet. It doesn't have to mean this. There are so many things you can do. And I don't think it's stated enough how much a smile can help somebody. Somebody who's having a rough day. I love that there's now a commercial out talking about parents having these struggles, and just walking up and saying, "You're doing great." Yeah, we can hear your kids throwing a fit. We understand how hard that is. What you're doing, teaching these kids these lessons on, you can help people. It doesn't take an act of Congress. It doesn't take an act of God. It takes an act of you. Just simply do something, simply kind words, a smile. Here's my hand, grab on, and let's go. How are the kids taking to that, Patrick?
Actually, last night, one of the young ladies there, she was just like, "Oh my, why can't we just do this every Sunday?" And I was like, I don't have the capacity for that. You know what I mean? Like when we get more people that can actually come alongside and help me as adults or leaders to come alongside and actually take some of the load off where we can do that once a week. I can't do it by myself. I'm doing too much stuff. And that kind of breaks my heart because this is the truth of things. These kids are so hungry. When I go to the Sonic, so I went to the Sonic, not this week, this last week. And when I went there last week, there was close to 60 something kids, and I'm sitting out there just watching. And um, I saw, kids were coming up to the table. Hey, Mr. Patrick, how are you doing and stuff like that. And we talk about life and then stuff in general. And I'm telling them about this initiative and like they can actually do something and make something happen. And even like, why don't we get these kids together, have their idea on how to make their own community space, and let them be the ones that's in charge of making that happen and just getting the voices behind them. So what ended up happening, towards the end of everything, we get in a circle, and it was something that happened by accident, really. I'm like, hey man, can I pray for you before I go or whatever? And then I would start praying for one of the kids. And then you saw a couple of the kids that I had affected a couple of weeks before prior. They came out of the crowd of all their friends and came over and we made this circle and started praying together. And then the next thing you knew, you saw all these kids watching. I looked up and I saw these kids watching and I saw this. I was like, my mind, I was like, oh man, the seeds being planted, and I didn't think about it in that way. And so I'm getting in the car and I'm heading out, and I hear all these kids and they're talking to each other. Hey, what are you doing? We want to pray. We want to go do stuff like that. Where you guys go to? And so I'm hearing this as I'm walking out, and then um, these kids are so hungry to be able to know that they have purpose. And that's anybody for the most part. Most of us are trying to figure out where we are going in life. But man, at that age when you're a teenager, um, um, you're kind of in this middle spot of feeling like trying to figure out who you are and then trying to figure out if you're useful, and if you just pay attention to your kids, they're constantly like, hey, how can I help you? What can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And this is such a great opportunity to actually sow into that question, that you can do pretty much anything, and not just anything, but you can have an actually true impact. The fact that um, they're just they're so hungry, and we kind of sleep on the fact, or we get annoyed with teenagers, or we get annoyed with that age group because they're all over the place, and it's like they're supposed to be like that. They're supposed to be like, I don't know what's going on, of my life. They're supposed to be like poking at things to figuring out how it works. They're supposed to be kind of getting in a little bit of trouble, so because they're pushing boundaries and stuff like that. But when you can take them out of the box of these boundaries that we try to put them in, open the top of that box, start ripping down the walls and being like, hey, your opportunities are limitless. Man, what our kids can become, because society has tried to push our kids into a box and be like, you're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that, you're supposed to be this. That's not at all how God created us. God says, you know, I created you to actually, change something in the world. Everybody has this space of dominance that they are, it's a God-given right, where you were uniquely created to dominate whatever space that you're in, to change that for good, as a force for good, like a force multiplier for good. Everybody has this capability and ability, whether we choose to do that or not. But a lot of times it comes down to opportunity to be able to do those things. Um, um, and I've seen hundreds and hundreds of times. You give that kid that you think is just a trouble kid and stuff like that, and you give him the opportunity and the tools to start to figure out like, man, I don't have to necessarily go this direction. And next thing you know, you have kids that are. I took one of the things I did one time, I took these kids this program called EVAC with this lady named Amy Donofrio in Jacksonville, Florida. Amazing woman. Just the vision that she had to actually just start speaking into these young black men's lives. And in this school in called Andrew Jackson, and and these are pretty much kids that society would just really like look down on, throw away, immediately be like, you're thugs, you're this, you're that. And that's really, they have a t-shirt called they have a shirt and a whole movement called I'm Not a Gang Member, because like they went to when the kids went to a fair one day, and he had a shirt on, he had a chain on, and the police automatically just thought that he shouldn't be there because of this look that he had, not knowing like, this is a very intelligent young man, that he's got like a lot of things that he's doing, just this profiling thing that happened. And we do that to our teenagers. I actually did that at Sonic. The kids at Sonic were all loud, revving up their cars, and I'm just like, teenagers. Just,
Yeah.
I was just, I was feeling some sort of way, but then God convicted me, man. He was like, man, like, he's like, I left, and he's like, go back and talk to them. And I went back and talked to them, and was telling them about, their identity in Christ and stuff like that. And like, you had 6 of those kids get saved at that very moment, come to Christ, and then you saw them just, they want to do these things. So anyway, with those kids in that classroom, this lady has had these kids in Harvard. They've met the president. They've been on NPR. Like these black kids from the hood that's in their school that has had national impact, not just not just they done went out and like national impact, and have done so many different things. I took them to Harvard and watched these young men go into a class in Harvard and teach Harvard students on how to actually communicate with the environment around them, and see things differently. I've never experienced anything like that to that extent, where you just saw like the power that was in youth. And all we have to do is just a lot of times get out of the way and give them the tools and let them become what they're supposed to be, and push them and let them make the mistakes, let them mess it up, let them do that. Because I mean, how do we get to where we are at? It's pretty much based off of all the mistakes that we made, but then all it takes is that one time to get it right and it click. And then now you have a game changer where you have community pay it forward, where you have what's the
One Hope Wines.
Stephanie, there you go, One Hope Wines. I was like my brain was just like, nah, it's not working. When you have a Mr. Z, I mean, to be really honest, if all of us were honest, it took a lot of failures and mistakes to actually get to that point, to where now this is a success. And all it took was just maybe a belief, or you believing in yourself, someone actually speaking life into you. That's all it took. And then, we might be at our ages doing this now, but imagine if you can have a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, whatever age, 12 or whatever, get that now, and then who they will be by the time that they turn 20. Like college would be almost inconsequential. That would just be an added bonus, to what they already are becoming. And so, I know I said a lot, but that's just what I've been seeing. It's not just like it's something that we need to go out and do. We need to just go get they already want it. They're hungry for it. They don't want to be in depression, anxiety, and all this other kind of stuff that got going on. These kids tell me all the time, like they don't want to deal with all this identity stuff that they're going through. Like they want truth, and they want people to believe in them, and they want to figure out what it is that they can do, so they don't have to be in these spaces where feel like they're not doing anything.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things, you see me, but do you see me? Z, let me bring you up on this, okay? You obviously look a little bit different, and you know what it's like to be profiled because of something that happened a couple of years ago, and you have had you've had experience. I don't want to say a terrible time, but you've had some terrible moments in those times. But you and I have talked about some of the things that you and your family have had to go through because people saw you, but they didn't see you. They saw a profile.
Yes, yes. It only seemed like yesterday that it happened, and let's just say going to the airport is not my ideal way of traveling. I mean, don't let the beard fool you. Uh, just like Patrick said, when you're making a difference towards the kids' lives and making that difference, it's you got that kid wearing a chain, and people think, oh, where'd this kid get this chain from? He must be in a gang. And it's great that you have that shirt that says I'm not part of a gang. Uh, but people look at you and think, oh, they're probably in the wrong neighborhood. And we've all been through that experience of being in a place at the wrong time or the wrong place. So yeah, we've had our fair share of being judged without actually knowing who we actually are. Like they say, people fear those that they don't understand.
Yeah. Yep. That's and I think that yeah, Patrick, you can I
Oh
can
boy.
tell you understand that. But I mean, I think that that's one of the biggest things that we as a group here can do is we can bring that voice to people and make sure that we understand, look, this isn't a one person thing. This is something that we all have to understand each other. You know, there's not a single one of us on this screen right now who, we are exactly alike. There's none of us that, that are, exactly the same when it comes to our lifestyles, what we've been through, what we do. None of us are, but we all agree that we can work together. And I think that that's one of the reasons why this show is becoming what it's becoming, and people are understanding us. And Stephanie, you are a female who's tried to make it in the world, doing what you do, plus raising a family. What are some of the things that have happened to you that people have tried to pigeonhole you into a space that's been maybe not hurtful? And I mean, obviously you had the strength to pull through it, but what are some of the things that you've had to deal with?
Ooh, that's a loaded question, Zach.
Yeah.
I think, I think first people think that once you're a parent, once you're a mom, that's it. Like that's what you are. And
Yeah.
that's it, and there's not much further beyond that. And I've tried really hard to show people that, you structure your time right, you can still go after the things that you're passionate about. Like there's no limits unless you're putting them on yourself, really. I mean, I've got 4 kids now, the 5th one on the way, and I don't see myself stopping when it comes to, the entrepreneurial side. My gosh, I can't talk today, you guys. This baby is like, boop, 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 boop. But I think it just goes to show that really you set your mind to something, you set the bar high, whatever it is that you're passionate about, go after it, use your skills. You should. And I want to, teach my kids the same. And you guys kind of touched on this before, but really, Patrick touched on it before with letting them go after their passions and realize that they can do more. We do live in a different time today than when I grew up, but to be able to get them out there and have them exposed to things and see what they pull towards. But back to your question, Zach. Gosh, well, our business started as more of a full service landscaping company when we first started 13 years ago. And I think there's definitely, the perception that that's a man's field, and I think people were shocked to see me show up and fill in when people couldn't make it to work because jobs had to get done, whether it be shoveling mulch or, whatever the case may be for that day, having to go pick things up, pick up supplies back and forth. You would get that double look almost if I'm driving a big truck with a trailer on the back, like, what is that little blonde girl doing in a vehicle like that? So I've definitely, you get looks. I haven't really had anybody specifically say anything directly to me. But why couldn't a woman do it too if they wanted to? In my situation, it was more of, all right, let me get the kids at the daycare and let me get down there to cover somebody's shift. No big deal. But why not? I remember years ago, I drove past a construction site and I saw a big sign in the road to slow people down that said men working. And I was kind of like, why does it just have to be men? There's not a female on the job. Nobody else likes to work with their hands or build things or, and I will say up front, that is not my strong point at all. That's my husband. That's why we balance each other really well. I have trouble building a kid's bike. Okay, you guys, I'll be honest there. But, if something has to get done and it's pressing and there's a client in need of something and, there's time restraints, especially when you have employees and things aren't working as they should or on time, of course I'd jump in and fill in. I don't know. I think the world just kind of puts their thoughts into people. And I think it holds a lot of people back from pursuing what they'd like to go after. So I'm more of a bold personality and don't really tend to care what a lot of people think. And I think showing up, getting the job done and setting the example is a good way to go. So.
Well, I absolutely agree with you. And, look, the truth is that we need everybody. Hey, Dennis, you brought up a good point prior to the show. And we're gonna kind of make a pretty drastic switch here, and we're gonna start talking about Father's Day and how fathers on certain times, and I'll tell my story here in a little bit, but Father's Day is another day like Memorial Day that we just celebrated a little bit ago, how it can be very difficult for people. You brought up a good point. Can you repeat that?
Sure. I can't remember everything verbatim here, but basically my point was that I believe that Father's Day, as compared to Mother's Day, is not given as much attention in our society, and it's given a different way of approaching it. And it was somebody else who was, I think it was you, Zach, that was saying, we feel like it's okay to give Dad a new tool set for Father's Day, and that's an appropriate gift for him. But if we were to give Mom a new vacuum cleaner or a new blender, that would be an insult. So it really goes to speak to how the different roles and expectations that we have for fathers versus mothers in our society. And I'm not saying that's necessarily bad, because I do believe that men and women are different on purpose by God's design, and that we have different roles that we play, and that we in our life, I believe that we are to complement one another and complete each other. But I think that sometimes it can be a period of, for a guy who's maybe already undergoing stress and depressed about other things going on in their life, it can be one more thing that can be used in that line of thinking that says, well, I'm not important. I'm just not. And then sometimes it could be that we had very bad dads in our life. I mean, I would say in my own life, my father was not there for the most part because of his deployments at sea. Because after he retired from the Navy, he was working and then putting himself to school to get the skills and the certifications he needed to build the dream house that he had been talking about and planning and making scale models of for my mother for the previous 10 years. But I had, and so when he'd come home, he'd be the disciplinarian because that's what mom would do. And so I had a twisted sense of who my father was. And he's softened a lot. And I love my dad, and I can't wait to go visit him next month when I go back for my daughter's wedding out in Washington State. But if it had stayed just that negative way, then it reflects badly on me, and I don't necessarily know how to be as a husband and a father. And if I see myself as a failure, as Father's Day brings up all of those things. Brings back the wounds from our father. It brings up my own sense, or can bring up my own sense of failure as a father. And so I think that's, for some, it can be a dangerous day if we've been considering checking out.
I actually kind of agree with you on it. I think that Father's Day, for a lot of fathers, the ones who really do care, I think Father's Day can be very dangerous because a lot of dads, it doesn't bring up the good things that have happened. It brings up the failures. Say if your child's been taken away, it brings up, wow, you weren't good enough to keep your family, and now the kids are gone. And I know for myself, when my first wife left and moved to Kansas, Father's Day was a terrible day for me. I'd have that one brief moment that was fun when Free would call me and say, "Hey, Dad, happy Father's Day," all this other stuff. But he's gone. He's somewhere else. And I think that when you have guests like we had Mike last month, or I'm sorry, last week, we had Mike on here who was talking about that too, how the love for your kids sometimes can be so overbearing, and it's so painful when you wake up and you look, they're not there. They're somewhere else, they're in another man's house, or they're somewhere else. And I think that you're right. I think it can be very, very painful to them. Do you guys, and we've only got about 5 more minutes left, which this show just, it seems to me like going way too fast. I'll tell you, there's so much that we got going on about this, but I'm going to go down the line here, and I'm going to ask a real quick question. Stephanie, can part of the reason why this is, why we feel why this could be a problem, is that we are still stuck back in the 1940s and 1950s on Father's Day, to where what Dennis was talking about, deployment, building a home, working all the time, that's what Dad was, and not what Dad is now. Like, one of the things that I'm not going to say hate, but one of the things that I couldn't stand was when I was talking about the tools the other day. Buy me a tie. I'd rather have that tie. I'm that dad. I'd rather, because you put a hammer in my hands, somebody's going to get hurt, and it's probably me. Okay. I don't know how to use those things. I was, but Stephanie, do you see us, is that one of the reasons why we're struggling with this, is because Father's Day, unlike Mother's Day, has never developed and never grown with the ages?
Right. I think you're touching on a really important point. And I will say my husband would enjoy the tools. He is one that would
Me too.
enjoy that. But all jokes aside here, no, I think that, you know, back in the day, the mom was the homemaker and the father worked, and that's just not the reality that we're living in today. You know, mom might still be the homemaker, but a lot of times, even to support everything that's going on in the world with inflation and everything, there has to be two incomes in the household to survive. You know, just saw something recently about the percentages with income back then versus what home purchases were back then, and there is such a drastic difference in what people are making now versus home prices. So I think that it hasn't grown with the times, for sure. I think that you touched on a really good point there, for sure, Zach. I think we need to really recognize everybody's role, and I think each household, the roles are different. I worked in private schools for a while. There's a lot of dads that are home and the mom is working, and the roles are reversed, you know? And I think we just have to meet people where they're at and respect that and, you know, appreciate that. You know, the balance in each house, I think, is different these days than what it was with the mold back then.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to see a lot, you know, due to COVID, we're seeing a lot more work at home parents anyway. So, I mean, that's definitely something that, you know, you got to take into factor that, yeah, you know, look, and I'll never, ever put, you know, any diminishment on what mothers go through. I said it earlier. I said it in the pre-show. You know what? The dads, we had the fun part, and then we kicked back and watched for 9 months. That's what we did. Okay. Mom did the work. Mom is the one who, you know, does a lot of this work throughout the time. But roles are changing. Now dads are, you know, look, dads are just as important. And that's never, I don't think that's ever changed, but there are so many dads that I do believe give us fathers a bad name, and you know, I think that's one of the other reasons why this is not a staple holiday like Mother's Day is because there are so many dads that just take and screw stuff up. But Patrick, let's hear from you on this. You have kids, you work with kids. Do you think we're stuck back in the old days? Is that one of the problems you see with Father's Day? My fur kids are really
man,
starting to
dude,
get on me.
like Stephanie said, you definitely just pulled the pin and just threw the grenade out on this one. Um, I I'm gonna speak to myself and just be a little bit transparent here. I have I have I have an amazing father. My father is honestly, at this point in my life, man, honestly, one of my best friends, actually. But when I was younger, my dad didn't grow up with a father. He had 19 brothers and sisters. Um, and um, uh, he didn't know his name or anything. He didn't even know who his father was. And so that caused issues with them when it was time for him to be a father. So I'm the oldest that my father raised, and and so it was very difficult growing up for me, and different things like that. And I understand him now. You know, he didn't know what he didn't know until he knew it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And then, but I saw it affect me when I became a man and my kids and my sons, especially my sons and stuff like that. Like, um, I did the best I could as a father. Um, but I just there's a lot of things that I just didn't know. I really didn't know, and um, it wasn't until after something happened or a mistake or something like that where it was just like, or a mistake, or you just did something that you thought was right, but you're like, when it happens, you're like, you know, maybe this isn't the best course of action. You know what I mean? Like, this is not what's the best for my kid. And then, like, a lot of times, see, back in the day, what would happen, um, if God has this purpose, because in His Word He says, "Fathers train up your children, fathers train up your children," and um, we've abdicated that role to the mothers, really, and we kind of like we do our thing, and the mothers do that. But it's actually the way it's actually designed, and how it used to be, is that kids were very in close proximity to their father, and we're doing the work with them. And while you're doing the work, he would be telling them, and like all the values and all these kind of things. And it was just like this kind of like by the time a young man was about anywhere between 12, 13, he was able to actually take on the roles and responsibilities of a father, of a husband, all these different types of things, way earlier. We've kind of, I think, to say that we're stuck in those times, I think we need to go back to how things really were, how God first designed it, where fathers were very, very, like, if I could go back and do things differently, I would have my son and my daughter with me all the time. I wouldn't
Mhm.
be in this place where I come home and I'd be like, I'm tired. When my son's like, "Hey, I want to play with you." No, at that moment, I don't care how tired I am, I'd go and play with him, and all this different kind of things. Or um, maybe hug my sons, and a little bit more, no matter how weird or different that they are, or whatever kind of trouble they're in. Because the thing is, like, your love is not dependent on their behavior. It's not a reward for their behavior. It's what they're owed because of their connection to you. Like how God gives you love regardless of who we've been. It's the same concept. And so, fatherhood for me was a very difficult time these last 2 years, because I lost my kids and stuff like that. A lot of it was not founded in truth. Um, um, a lot of it wasn't founded in truth, but there were things that just um, were, man, if you could just do things differently, and if you had that kind of wisdom, where I can see where if I had a good father, but I had a father that didn't know how to teach me how to be that father. And like now he's that father that teaches
Mhm.
how to be that father, because he's had 3 kids now, and he's learned and he's invested in that. And so like now when I see those things, it's different. But like that's what's so important about this Father's Day, is the kind of father that we are choosing to be right now. Whatever you did from this point past, it's past, it's done.
Yep.
But when you're thinking about Father's Day, that's every single Father's Day. Even though if you're going through this time you're going where it's a negative connotation, it could be the beginning of that legacy that leads this bright future ahead of you, depending on how you frame that. And so last 3 Father's Day actually were like some of the worst that I've ever experienced in my life, especially this last one, when after my suicide and everything was gone. Like, it was Father's Day, man. I struggled so hard just to keep going that day, because man, I miss my daughter more than I can ever explain. I miss both of my sons more than I could ever explain. I can't begin to describe uh anyway. um
We got you, brother. Like I
Mhm.
said, as a as a dad, I understand. With my son being gone,
this time right now, this year was the best year I've ever had. Man, trying to like swallow it
It's
down
okay,
here.
man.
Um, um, this year was the best year that I've had as far as a Father's Day. Because it's like, um, I'm telling you about how you frame it. Like, I had to let that go. And I let it go. I went on actually the spiritual retreat with this thing called Trace Diaz. And I literally nailed my kids to this cross, like those things that you're these deep things, and I had to put it down, lay it down. And I was just like, all right, God, you take care of them now and stuff like that. And but right now you teach me to be the best father to any kid, any person, because sometimes you're a father to, I'm, to be honest, I'm a father to some men that are older than me. To be that's a wild concept, but yes, that's the way it is. And so you can be a father in so many different ways, and that responsibility, you can't abdicate it, you can't throw it away, you can't just be like it's someone else's job. You have to. Uh, you have to own that, understand who your God is and how He's made you, and then become that father. And so this past one, it's just like I know who I am. I know that God's creating me to be that father. So if, like, say for instance, I get with my girlfriend now, and we end up getting married, I know what kind of father I'm going to be. Like, I'm taking the necessary steps to learn what it means to be a father. A lot of us don't do that. We learn how to do our jobs, we
Yep.
learn how to do all these other things, but we don't actually invest in time to learn how to be a father. That's part of your Father's Day legacy. Go learn how to be a father. That was the greatest thing I ever did these past 2 years, was go back and dig deep and be like, well, this is not what a father is. This is not what a father is. This is where I made mistakes. Own it, because what else can you do? Own it, and then go, all right, this is where I need to go, in the direction I need to go, and then add that skill to your skill box so you can, because man, you have your son or your daughter that's right there, and then you have that kid next door that's watching right there. You might have that next father that's trying to understand how to be a father that's watching you. Like, you don't know what the gravity of being a father is. It's actually so much bigger than just your family. It's so much bigger, and so it's so important to learn and invest very heavily in that. Um, and that's Father Day for me, man. Father's Day to me this year was just a brand new. It was like an enlightening time, and I was just like, I was so full of joy and happiness this past Father Day as compared to sorry, my camera just went off. Give me 1 second. I don't know what just happened here. Can you guys still see me?
Yeah, we can
I can
still
see
hear
you.
you, and you're
And
Oh, okay.
frozen, but
I was like, my stuff went off, and I don't know what happened. I'm frozen on my screen. It's this crazy look. Anyway, take this Father's Day not as this thing where you put condemnation into yourself. I'm terrible, whatever. Understand that this Father's Day was the beginning of the start of the father that you are actually truly desiring to be, to see in the world, and then go be that, and not sit in this mess and be like, oh me, oh my. No, 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 no. You were created to be the best father that this world has ever seen. Every single man on this planet was created to be that.
yeah.
Just go claim it and be that.
Well, I think, again, Patrick, thank you so very much for being here again this week. And once again, you can get a hold of Patrick and learn more about what he's got going on by going to patrickmyers9@gmail.com. That's Patrick with a C. Even though your computer won't like it very much, it's the way it's supposed to be spelled. patrickmyers9@gmail.com. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate it, brother. Mr. Z, why don't you give us, I know that you've got another meeting coming up here real quick, but can you please share with us your thoughts? What do we need to do?
What we need to do is just remember all the dads who decided to stay with us and give us the best guidance possible. And I have to agree with Sam, Patrick. You're definitely an inspiration to all of us. Not an easy thing raising kids. Not that I've had experience doing that. But I'd like to share a quote that my father once told me, if that's okay with you.
Yes, please.
My father once said, "Son, if you make it your business to help people, you'll have plenty of work." And I'll leave it there.
That's very good. You can you go on one of the best websites you're going to find.
Oh, thank you.
Affordable, very affordable, and very knowledgeable person. Z-World Webs, zworldwebs.com. And every time that you come through us, you get a website built. You can help causes all over the country through the Community Pay It Forward partnership. Z, brother, I know that you got to get going. And Sam is coming back in with great advice. And I think one of the things that Sam also said earlier that I really find very prudent is right here. That's what mistakes are for. You know, Patrick, your child's not born with you being the best father in the world or mother. Okay, Sam is saying, I'm a mom. You know what? You're not born the best mother or father in the world. You're going to make mistakes. That's what parenting is. But again, Z, thank you, brother. I greatly appreciate it. Dennis, real quick, give us your thoughts on this.
Sure. Well, being a father and living with the legacy of fathers, my father and fathers before him, it's a difficult task. But I think that what I'm working with Patrick on with the men's ministry is an effort to become better fathers, better men, and helping other men to do the same by understanding better who God created us to be, and not to recognize that we are broken, fallen, we don't succeed at everything, but that we are loved and we are gifted with certain things that are unique to us, and that we're called to a higher purpose. And I think when we can keep those things in balance, and we have brothers and sisters around us that can help uplift us, and I think we can make a big difference, because we need to have more men who know and who see and seek out what does it mean to, first of all, it should be what does it take to be a good husband to the wife who then becomes the mother of our children, and then what does it take to be a good father to those children. But we frequently don't get any of that right. We just go on and have a good time, and boom, all of a sudden we find ourselves with made a girl pregnant, and am I going to get married or not? And our society kind of promotes that, versus, because it's too old-fashioned to say, okay, well, let's really understand what it means when you're going to go off and engage in sexual activity. You're going to wind up possibly as a with a pregnancy there, and that's really not going to be the best way to establish a lasting relationship, if that's the first thing that you do. So it's a lot of work to be done to help a lot of guys that are bruised and broken like I have been. I think I'm better than I was, and I know that's our heart, therefore, with our men's ministry and a lot of others that are doing the similar kind of work in other organizations. So,
well, Dennis, as always, you can be reached at D. Schroeder.
Yes, D. Schroeder. Yes.
At priceoffreedomfoundation.org. D. Schroeder at priceoffreedomfoundation.org. Just go and check them out and see what you can do. And once again, Dennis is a mission partner. You can support Dennis and everything that they do at the Price of Freedom Foundation through the Community Pay It Forward program. One of the things that I just really want to touch on with what you said that I think is very important, that, even if you don't succeed as being a good husband, in which, you know what, we're not always good husbands. You can still be a good father, even if the marriage didn't succeed. So, these kids, they need you, they depend on you. Make sure that you're there. That's the biggest thing. You don't have to be the best father in the world. Just be one. Just be there. Stephanie, this brings up me remembering when we had Stop Shaking Baby Syndrome on our thing. Look, parenting is tough. It's tough. Again, you're not born to perfection. You're not born to be a perfect parent. You do have to work your way into it. But the most important thing is those kids need you. Your imperfections, everything about it, those kids need you. So, Stephanie, do you want to say something?
I was just going to say we're always a work in progress, 1% better every day. We're all a work in progress.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And I really want to thank everybody who chimed in today. Thank you for the kind words, Sam. This issue is being addressed very well. Thank you so very much. We all greatly appreciate you chiming in and being part of our show. We have run over a little bit today, folks, and we apologize, but we thank you for bearing with us. To all of our fathers, to all of the fathers that we know, love, and respect. Again, to all the single mothers that are out there who are pulling double duty. We love you. Happy Father's Day. And now it's on to the next. We need you to please remember that, thank you very much, Sam. We all need you to remember that, you know what? Suicide is permanent, okay? And we say it at the end of every show. Just please remember that no matter how softly you walk, you're going to leave footprints. If you need to talk, please reach out to people. There's plenty of places to go. Right now, they have finally gotten together and they've started a national hotline. Reach out to there. We will be putting stuff together, databases together with everybody. If you need to talk, men or kids, reach out to Patrick. We've, reach out to Dennis. They're working on this men's group. Maybe it's something that can really help you guys out. So just make sure that you're out there. Make sure that you're looking for something, because there's something out there for you. But again, please take care of yourselves, and we will see you next week right here on Footprints Forward. Thank you.